Good day. My name is Chief Strongblood, St. Vincent and the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son, the diaspora machismo. Today we are going to deal with a series that is called Lest We Forget. And we are going to deal with the Right Honorable Robert Milton Cato.
Tropical breeze, always there, within my reach. I love you, St. Vincent, me sweet little island, St. Vincent. I love you, St. Vincent, home of the blessed St. Vincent. St. Vincent.
Before we get into this program, let me bring it to your attention that the James Mitchell administration and the Ralph Gonsalve administration have been trying to hide little snippets of Milton Cato's history as it relates to the development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And this is done in the publication of government documents and on certain government websites. Robert Milton Cato was born on the 6th of March 1915 in Calico. Although I am not sure which primary school the Right Honorable Robert Milton Cato attended, it is documented that the Right Honorable Robert Milton Cato attended the Boys' Grammar School in 1928 and he ended his secondary school in 1933. Robert Milton Cato attended the Boys' Grammar School on a scholarship. Immediately after leaving school, he was articled to a barrister in Kingston. At this period in the world's history, professional certification, training, and accreditation was done on an apprenticeship basis. For example, if you want to become a lawyer or a doctor, you'll become an understudy of a practicing lawyer or doctor. You learn all that you can from those professionals. When that professional think you are ready to practice on your own, then you are sent to a school to be examined to certify your competence in the field of practice. Later, Milton Cato got married to the beautiful dame from Rothermill, Lucy Cato. After 12 years of understudying the barrister at law in Kingston, St. Vincent, Milton Cato went to Middle Temple in England. However, he enchanted to Canada, where he enlisted and became a member of the 1st Canadian Army in 1945 in the middle of World War II. We can see that Milton Cato is no punk. When many men around the world was trying to avoid enlistment, some were even trying very hard to beat the draft, Milton Cato, understanding the seriousness of war, knowing that he can lose his life, decided to plunge headfirst into enlistment into the 1st Canadian Army, knowing that he will sooner or later be deployed to fight the war.
The first cannon shot of the Second World War is fired on Danzig.
The Right Honorable Robert Milton Cato was ready and willing to run headfirst into a war-battered region. He wanted an opportunity to experience what it was like to fight in a war. However, his enlistment came just as the war was about to finish. Right Honorable Milton Cato, as a member of the 1st Canadian Army, was deployed to Germany, France, Belgium, and Holland. Within less than 3 years, the Honorable Robert Milton Cato was able to attain the rank of sergeant. That is quite an achievement. After spending 3 years of active service in the 1st Canadian Army, Milton Cato then went on to Middle Temple in England in 1948, where he was examined and read and was given certification and title of a barrister of law. When Milton Cato was a high school student and when he was an understudy at the barrister's chamber in Kingston, there was some very serious injustice that was taking place among his people. Vincentian historian Dr. Adrian Fraser, in his article, Two Spiritual Baptists in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, this is what he wrote.
In the article, Two Spiritual Baptists in SVG, Dr. Adrian Fraser wrote, the church, the government, and the newspaper combined their efforts to fight against the religion. Thus came to a climax the passage of the Shakers Prohibition Ordinance in 1912. The hope was that the 1912 legislation was going to signal the end of the religion. This turned out to be an empty dream. The state prosecuted significant number of Shakers in the 1920s and in the 1930s.
In 1912, the colonial government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines passed what is referred to as the Shaker Prohibition Ordinance, which outlawed the religion as was practiced by the Shakers. For 36 years, the Shakers were persecuted and prosecuted in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yet, they cannot afford a lawyer, and there was no lawyer who was willing to represent these God-fearing people pro bono. Entire congregations were arrested, charged, and persecuted. However, in 1948, something special happened. For the first time, after 36 years of being persecuted and prosecuted, the Shakers will now be represented by legal counsel in their court hearing. Listen to Dr. Claudius Frogus as he expounded on this.
The very first time that the spiritual Baptists were privileged with legal counsel was 1948, when Milton Cato in St. Vincent represented a group of 25 spiritual Baptists who were, of course, called Shakers up to that time.
In 1965, something very interesting happened in the Parliament of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Probably the first time in the history of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the opposition and the government decided to work together on behalf of a common interest.
In the article, To Spiritual Baptists in SVG, Dr. Adrian Fraser wrote, Ebenezer Theodore Joshua carried on the struggle after Macintosh left the scene. Ebenezer Joshua moved a motion in Parliament in 1965 to have the law, the Shakers Prohibition Ordinance, revoked. He was strongly supported by Milton Cato, who led the opposition in the Legislative Council. But before this final blow to the legislation, which had been on the books for 53 years, can be delivered, Milton Cato, as a lawyer, had to secure a victory in Marquardt in the case involving Shakers.
Now, Cato won a resounding victory by exposing the considerable flaws in the law, which was deliberately written that way to give liberty to the police and the magistrates to persecute the spiritual Baptists according to their own prejudices. They inserted into into the legislation, not because of carelessness, but because the government wanted to leave open the interpretation of what was in fact a violation of certain clauses within the Act.
Although the government and the opposition were in agreement for the repeal of the Shaker Prohibition Ordinance, it still had to pass through the hands of the governor, who had the power to veto that law when it arrived at his desk. Needless to say, Milton Cato won that case in the Maricoa court, and the law was eventually repealed. My name is Chief Strongblood, St. Vincent and the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son, the diaspora machismo.